When Li Qin didn't show up at the agreed time to fetch the bride, I knew he had been reborn too. In my past life, I was the virtuous wife and mother praised by everyone. I helped him achieve great success, supported his parents, managed the household frugally, and entertained guests with grace, never making a single mistake. But he hated me for a lifetime, just because his white moonlight, Tang Yiru, borrowed money from me for an abortion, but lost her chance to become a mother forever at a black market clinic. The white moonlight left for a distant land, becoming a lifelong pain for Li Qin. So, after being reborn, Li Qin decided to humiliate and disgrace me on our wedding day, to teach me a lesson. When he finally felt the punishment was enough and came back with the betrothal gifts, I was already 8 months pregnant and had followed my husband to join the army. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now the story begins. Go out and check quickly. The auspicious hour has passed. Why hasn't the groom's procession arrived yet? My parents and relatives were so anxious, going to the village entrance again and again to look out. After waiting bitterly for several more hours, several groups of people were sent to inquire around Li Qin's house in the neighboring village. It was finally confirmed that the Li family had called off the marriage. Father slammed the table in anger, his eyes glaring. This is too insulting. They're deliberately humiliating our Huarian. He immediately sought out the matchmaker to go to the Li family and demand an explanation. Upon arrival, they found the main gate tightly shut, with no one answering. My parents were exhausted and angry, utterly drained. That very night after returning, they fell ill. The timing of my rebirth was a bit too late, watching my parents lying in bed, worrying on my behalf. Yet I am filled with nothing but joy. In my previous life, I married into the Li family with the dowry my parents had carefully prepared. I respected my in-laws and was kind to my sister-in-law. The Li family was poor, and I handled all the social and financial obligations. In 1995, when my sister-in-law Li Ana wanted to study abroad, I sold a courtyard house under my name to barely cover the expenses, with the support of my substantial dowry. Li Qin rose steadily and later seized the opportunity to achieve great success. The Li family, once unknown in a small mountain village, soared to become the new elite of Beicheng, riding the tide of prosperity. Everyone praises me as the woman who brings prosperity to the family. Only Li Qin refuses to accept it. The marriage of our later years fell apart amidst his repeated, furious complaints. Jiang Huayan, I truly regret marrying you. You deliberately lent money to Yiru to have an abortion. You ruined her life. By then, he had already brought Tang Yiru, who had fled far away, back home. The two of them appeared together in public, acting intimately affectionate. They showed no regard for my dignity as his wife. My kind mother-in-law and thoughtful sister-in-law always try to persuade me. Huayan sister-in-law, you need to be more tolerant. Times are different now. Which wealthy man doesn't have multiple wives and concubines? My son brother has already been very devoted to you. His humble wife, even my own son openly stands against me, challenging me directly. You should be content. Mom, Aunt Tang can't have children, so she won't compete with me for inheritance. She just wants a title. What's the harm in giving it to her? Go out and ask around, which wealthy family doesn't have a few illegitimate children? With Aunt Tang keeping Dad occupied, he won't have the energy to produce more siblings for me. What more could you possibly be unhappy about? Do you even realize how hard it is for me to navigate between Dad, Grandma, and Auntie every single day? I don't even know what I'm unhappy about. I only know my elderly parents, every time they saw Li Qin's scandalous news, would always grieve and lament over my situation. My father, a retired soldier who believed that men shed blood, not tears, would secretly weep in the dead of night when no one was around, hiding it from my mother. He passed away without ever closing his eyes. A failed marriage has left my dearest ones heartbroken. The glamorous and splendid appearance of outsiders is merely a magnificent robe covered in lice. No one knows the bitterness in my heart, the blood I've vomited. So, after being reborn and returning, everyone was furious, cursing the bridegroom for fleeing the wedding. Only I felt immensely relieved. Fortunately, there's still time to change things. While my parents took people to block Li Qin's house, I went to the marriage registration office in town by myself. I retrieved the marriage certificate that hadn't been stamped yet. Past life. On the wedding day, I forgot to bring the stamped certificate. The kind-faced female comrade said understandingly, "Leave the items here for now. Once you bring me the proof, I'll complete the process for you, so you don't have to go back and forth." I handed the milk candies I had specially brought in my pocket through the window. Retrieved the marriage certificate that hadn't been stamped yet. Thank you, thank you." I bowed while tears streamed down my face. On the way home, the bus passed through a secluded alley. A familiar figure flashed by in an instant. Li Qin was holding Tang Iru tightly in his arms, overwhelmed with joy. "Iru, this time I won't let you face it alone. I will take on the responsibility of being a father." The woman blushed shyly, throwing playful punches. Tang Iru accidentally met my gaze and panicked. I turned my head away indifferently, no longer paying attention. In his previous life, Li Qin always believed that the child Tang Iru was carrying was his own, only Tang Iru, and I knew it wasn't. That child belonged to Tang Iru's university professor. The charming young girl and the elegant, married man fell in love at first sight. This love, unaccepted by the world, intoxicated the two of them. Later, the man chose to go abroad with his wife for fame and fortune. He left silently, abandoning her. Tang Iru was heartbroken and distraught, and discovering she was pregnant only added to her panic and unease. She set her sights on the loyal backup Li Qin, got him drunk, and tried to force a relationship. I caught them in the act and stopped it. Tang Iru knelt before me, weeping and begging me to give her a way out. "Jiang Huayan, I beg you, lend me some money. I'll get an abortion and just use Li Qin's name. But I promise, no one else will know." It's hard to explain the psychology behind it. Maybe it's a sense of camaraderie, or perhaps pity for her misfortune in love. I kept it to myself. After waking up, Li Qin only thought he had a one-night stand with his beloved. When he learned that Tang Iru had an abortion and could no longer bear children, he was only in pain for a few days before accepting the reality. Back then, he had just joined the department and was counting on his father-in-law's network of connections. I was in the sweetest of times with him. Later, he resented me for bullying him with my power and suppressing his deep affection. He hated me to the bone, so he humiliated me to the utmost in public. Among the three of us, there was never a winner. Now, everyone is back in their place, and things are on track. Since Li Qin ran away before the wedding, Dad has always felt guilty toward me. Originally, there were two candidates for the marriage arrangement. He had high hopes for Li Qin, saying that Li Qin was no ordinary person. He has a good eye. Li Qin's achievements in his previous life were nationally renowned, but no matter how good he is, I don't want him anymore. I've thought it through. In this world, women always have to get married. Decades from now, even strong, independent women who choose to remain single will have to endure all sorts of gossip and rumors, let alone now. Since I have to marry, I'll choose the safest option to marry. When my dad heard that I was going to marry Sighting, he was taken aback. "Daughter, let's choose carefully this time. We don't have to limit ourselves to these two options. I can introduce you to other families." I shook my head and insisted, "Dad, I choose him. Ask him if he's willing to marry me." Thinking about what happened in my past life, I wasn't sure. He should be willing, right? In my previous life, that strong, dark-skinned man learned the news of my marriage. He came running to me, drenched in sweat, but upon seeing me in my red wedding dress, he left with a heavy heart. Later, every year, I receive a remittance and various necessary supplies, all from the same place. Although the specific address was omitted, I later looked it up. That was the station where Sighting had once been posted. 10 years later, everything came to a halt. I thought Sighting had finally come to his senses and started a family. I was truly happy for him. It wasn't until decades later that I learned he had already sacrificed his life. His name was engraved on the tombstone in the Martyrs' Cemetery, with a small line of text beside it, "My eternal love, Huayan." Someone discards me like a worn-out shoe. Someone loved me for a lifetime within their limited life. I looked up at the man in front of me, his body tense and sitting rigidly. On this day in his past life, he turned away and left in sorrow. For some reason in this life, he has been standing at my door, stubbornly watching me. "Sighting, I guess it's your bad luck. I'm getting married, and you're still single, so we'll just have to make do with each other." The man grinned broadly, his sharp eyes filled with a soft glow. "Not unlucky at all. I'm more than happy to To leave the places and people I dislike, my parents took me directly to move into a courtyard house in the city. This was my mother's dowry back in the day. And it hasn't been touched since it was brought home. In my previous life, my former sister-in-law, Lee Maynor, insisted on going abroad. Lee Chen's face was ashen with disagreement, while the mother-in-law wept under the covers. The house is in constant chaos every day. Lee Maynor pleaded with me in tears. Sister-in-law, please help me think of a way. I only need 300,000. You must have a solution. What could I possibly do? Some members of the Lee family played the good cop, while others played the bad cop. They used subtle pressure to push me into selling the house, yet were unwilling to state their intentions clearly. Even as late as the 1990s, daughters-in-law were expected to use their dowries to support their in-laws, who bled them dry. It would also damage their reputation if word got out. The complete courtyard house was sold for over 600,000. Lee Maynor took 300,000 to go abroad, while the rest was taken by Lee Chen to expand his business connections. By the time I later wanted to buy back that courtyard, the price had already skyrocketed. Even if Lee Chen were to sell it, he would have to weigh whether it's worth it. To him, buying it for me was certainly not worth it. Now, this courtyard was transferred to my name by my mother. It was decorated in a vibrant red, full of joy and celebration. Sai Ting and I obtained our marriage certificate and, witnessed by our relatives, pledged to become husband and wife. Both sets of parents were moved to tears. What was rather sudden was that, right after paying respects to the elders, Sai Ting received an urgent mission. He was extremely regretful, saying, "I can only come back for the wedding night." Before departure, he handed over all his assets to me, giving me repeated instructions. Looking at the man's tense brows and eyes, I smiled softly. I stood on tiptoe, gently touched him, then quickly pulled away. "I'll wait for you to come home." Sai Ting's strong hand gripped my waist firmly, his voice hoarse. "Okay." I thought I would repay Sai Ting with all my loyalty and trust. I would do better than my past self, more devoted, more composed. But I never imagined that this life Sai Ting was nothing like the reticent man from my previous life. In my past life, we only met a few times. Sai Ting remained silent, except for his dark, scorching gaze that swept over. No other emotional fluctuations had ever been felt from him. I thought he needed a composed, dignified, and elegant wife. I was confident that no one could do it better than me. But, who can tell me about this passionate, flamboyant, and clingy man? What on earth is going on? I haven't left the bed for a week since he came back from his mission. Lost in the heat of passion, I was so angry that I kicked him, but he grabbed my foot and placed it on his shoulder. This led to an even more intense. My parents and in-laws have been living together since we got married. My mother and mother-in-law get along well, and they each bought a house next door to each other. The parents on both sides play chess, knit sweaters, and cook together every day. They never interfere with our lives. They just quietly care for and look after us in the background. In recent days, the dining table has clearly been filled with many special dishes: stir-fried chives with eggs, spicy stir-fried kidney, and goji berry chicken soup. My face flushed bright red, and my head hung lower with each passing day. Only Sai Ting, with his thick skin, still had the mood to comment on the dishes. "Mom, this chicken soup is a bit too salty." "Dad, the fish we caught today is a bit fishy. Next time, let's keep them for a few days to let them spit out the mud before cooking." No matter what requests were made, both parents nodded readily. Sai Ting said proudly, "Thanks to you. If I wanted the jade rabbit from the moon, my dad would find a way to catch it and let me taste how salty it is." Originally, the two elders had prepared themselves for me to live a lonely life. I shyly pinched his waist. He not only didn't retreat, but instead leaned his face closer. "Darling, here too. Give me a few more on the face. Every time I go on a mission, I rely on this feeling to sense you." While I stayed safely at home waiting, I would receive his packages and letters at fixed times each month: dried wildflowers from the mountains, seashells from the shore, stunning landscape photographs, and letters overflowing with love. "Huayan, the flowers on the mountain have bloomed, but they are not as beautiful as you, not as delicate as you. Huayan, I whisper my love into the conch. Listen, can you hear my voice? Huayan, even the clouds in the sky resemble your shadow. I miss you so much. Huayan, I love you." Sighting has arranged my entire life to be stable and secure. I no longer have to run around like in my past life, just to cover the household expenses. I don't have to worry about meals for the whole family, my sister-in-law's grades, or the medicinal soup my mother-in-law drinks every day. No need to rise early to serve, no need to stay up late weaving clothes, like my grandmother. I have a pair of skillful hands. No matter how intricate the pattern or technique, I can see through it at a glance and replicate it exactly. In my past life, Li Qin's boss, a cheerful and straightforward older sister, was most fond of the trendy clothes from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan featured in magazines. Li Qin pleaded with me to help him. I dragged my body, just out of postpartum confinement, and replicated the exact same design effect to suit her preferences. The annual custom clothing orders never disappointed her. For the next several decades, no matter what difficulties Li Qin encountered, that elder sister never waited for me to ask for help. She resolved all of Li Qin's issues, safeguarding his business empire every step of the way. Later, when the elder sister retired, Li Qin never visited her again, not even a single phone call. When I went to visit the elder sister with the newly made coat, that legendary old lady, lying on the outdoor rocking chair, looked at me and sighed with a smile. "Huan, you, so sincere and straightforward, what will you do in the future?" Thinking of Sighting's kindness, I decided to repay her in some small way. So when I specifically learned that the mother of Sighting's leader, an elegant elderly lady, was particularly fond of Suzhou and Hangzhou-style kapows, I seized the limited opportunities to meet her and worked tirelessly, even skipping meals and sleep, to make several pieces. Seeing the clothes I brought out, and my eyes red from staying up late, Sighting pursed her lips, her eyes reddening. He said, "My dear, I can earn my own future. I married you to make you happy. Believe me, I can do it well. My wife is so talented with her hands. I support you in making it a hobby or a career, but don't do it for me. It shouldn't become your shackle." Looking at the vivid, smiling face before me, and the calm, sorrowful photo on the tombstone in my memory. In contrast, I only felt a heart full of love, unable to put it into words, opened my mouth to say something, only let out a series of tilde, "I'm pregnant." Sighting and both sets of parents were overwhelmed and overjoyed by the news. The father-in-law and mother-in-law went to the ancestral home overnight to burn incense and kowtow. Thanks to the ancestors' blessings, Sighting, this unfilial descendant, has finally been of some use. Before returning to the military, Sighting boasted shamelessly and spoke recklessly, "Old man, the one you should be kowtowing to is my wife. Without her, your Sai family would surely be left without descendants." Before he could finish speaking, he was driven out by his mother-in-law's feather duster. Sighting reluctantly returned to his unit. My in-laws not only did not neglect me but instead devoted all their energy to taking care of me. My mother-in-law heard that free-range mountain eggs from the countryside are more nutritious than those bought in the city. She made a special trip with my mother to go back to the village to buy eggs. When they returned in the evening, before even stepping through the door, they could already hear my father's booming voice, "That damn brat. I'm going to kill him. He deliberately skipped the wedding to spite us, and now he's ruining Huan's reputation. He's asking for death." Mom quickly came in, calming my furious dad while explaining to me, "When passing by Lijia village, I ran into Li Qin's mom. Back then, their whole family avoided us to embarrass our family, and now she has the nerve to ask me why Huan didn't deliver her medicine, saying she's run out. It's a good thing you didn't marry Li Qin. Not a single one of their family is any good. That sister of his, she's in college now, right? And she had the nerve to ask why you didn't send her money last month. A whole family of ungrateful wolves." Li Qin's dad seemed quite honest back then, but who would have thought the rest of his family would be so awful? Mother took a sip of water and sighed. "Your mother-in-law heard it. It's nothing to cover the egg basket, but I'm afraid they might hold a grudge." Although we didn't hide this matter from them back then, hearing with their own ears that their daughter-in-law was left at the altar is always uncomfortable. If your mother-in-law speaks to you harshly lately, you must try to bear with it. Your father and I can see that Sighting is a good kid. It'll be fine after this period passes. Upon hearing this, Dad became even angrier. "Endure what? My daughter hasn't done anything wrong. At worst, we'll get a divorce. I can support both my daughter and grandson. After these words were spoken, neither of them said anything more. The atmosphere turned somber. I felt a bit uneasy, wondering if my mother-in-law would tell Sighting. If he heard, would he mistakenly think I was only with him because I had no other choice? Would he get angry? Probably. I tossed and turned with a troubled heart before finally falling asleep. The next morning, my mother-in-law didn't cook or bring any food over. I couldn't tell whether I felt a sigh of relief or disappointment in my heart. It's just strange. Mom and Dad aren't home either. Before I could snap out of my wild thoughts, I heard a constant clamor of noise outside the door. This time I'll let them off, but if they keep spouting nonsense, I'll break her son's damn legs. Uncle, we'll go with you. Sighting isn't home, and if we can't even take care of his wife properly, something he entrusted to us, what kind of sister would I be? That's right. Such a good person like Hwaian, being slandered by that wicked woman, I'd be furious. Next time I see her gossipy daughter, I'll tear her mouth apart. Oh dear. I forgot to cook for Hwaian. I hope she doesn't go hungry. It's all your fault. I told you we should come back right after moving. Where are the hen and eggs I bought? Who has them? Give them to me quickly. Here, Auntie. Not a single egg is broken. I held them tight. Later, the mother-in-law explained that she hadn't taken what Li Qin's mother said that day to heart at all. I didn't talk back for fear of breaking the eggs in the basket. Chickens lay very few eggs in winter. She went to many houses to gather those eggs to nourish me. The moment she returned the eggs, she immediately told her father-in-law and the relatives, and together they went to settle the score. The crowd smashed Li Qin's home to pieces and then reported it to the police and the village party secretary. Li Qin's mother finally admitted that what she had said that day, Jiang Hwaian has long slept with my son, was nothing but her own nonsense. The mother-in-law, a retired teacher, disregarded her own dignity and slapped Li's mother hard across the face. The sound sharp and clear. As she slapped her, she cursed. Hwaian is such a wonderful girl. Your son didn't know how to cherish her. It's your whole family that's blind. If I ever hear you slandering my child again, I'll tear your mouth apart. My mother-in-law slapped several hundred-yuan bills into my hand. This is the compensation from that old hag for damaging your reputation, along with a written guarantee. She was so scared when she saw the police, crying and begging, saying she was possessed by a ghost. Don't be afraid, Hwaian. Since Sighting isn't home, your parents will protect you. My parents, who rushed over after hearing the news, were both shocked and remorseful. Repeatedly complaining that my in-laws didn't take them along, the mother-in-law waved her hand with great boldness. If my own child is wronged, we can handle it ourselves. I saw Li Qin and Tang Yiru again on the streets of Shenzhen 5 years later. It was clear, Li Qin, taking advantage of his rebirth opportunity, has been thriving and flourishing. The two of them were dressed in the trendiest clothes and driving a small car, seeing me waiting for a ride by the roadside. The sense of superiority welled up inside them. Li Qin frowned, his face tense. Jiang Hwaian, I just sent the letter 3 days ago and you're already here. You really have been following me all along. Me, Li Qin impatiently tossed over a business card. All right, I can't be bothered to talk to you. Come find me at this address tonight. I have something for you to do. Tang Yiru's eyes flickered, she bit her lip, and shot me an unwilling glare, before I could even speak. The two got into the car, started the engine, and drove off directly. A few minutes later, Xiao Sun arrived in a sweat, screeching to a halt. Sis, there's an urgent matter in the troop. Am I late? I waved my hand, reassuring him. I just got here too. The timing is perfect. Let's go. Before getting in the car, I casually tossed Li Qin's business card into the trash can. 4 years ago, I gave birth to my daughter, Wanwan. Sighting received a transfer assignment and was to move to Shenzhen. Thousands of kilometers away, the grandparents and parents couldn't bear to part with their granddaughter, nor did they want us to live apart, leaving them in a dilemma. I wasn't in a hurry. While taking care of my daughter, I studied for the college entrance exam and was admitted to a medical program. This year, my daughter started kindergarten and formed her own circle of friends. Spoiled by her grandparents on both sides, she grew up wild and unruly, accustomed to the climate of the northern city, and firmly refused to come with me to Shenzhen. After seeking my daughter's consent, I left her in the care of my parents and in-laws, and I accepted the admission notice to go to Shenzhen to reunite with Sighting. Perhaps the experiences from my past life have had too great an impact on my psyche. Even though I still love creating things by hand, I can no longer pick up scissors and needles. It gives me a sense of tension. I've gradually developed an interest in medicine. Sighting encouraged me. Darling, with such skillful hands, if you can't hold an embroidery needle, then take up a scalpel. Whatever you want to do, I'll support you. After getting my degree certificate, I applied to join the army as a dependent and was transferred to the military hospital in Shenzhen. Today is the very first day I'm going to report to the hospital. Little did I expect that, in such a big city, I would run into someone I dislike on the very first day. I didn't take Li Qin's words to heart at all. Neither he nor Tang Yiru could stir the slightest emotional response in me. So, I managed both work and reunions with Sighting without any conflict. I didn't care in the slightest about the chaos on Li Qin's side. Li Qin kept glancing at his watch, pacing back and forth restlessly. It was almost 8 o'clock. Why hadn't Jiang Huiyan arrived yet? Director Jiao would be arriving in a few days. And he had to make a good impression on her. Li Qin remembered how much hardship he had endured when he first started working under this leader. It was also 3 years later that Jiang Huiyan's tailoring skills happened to match Director Gao's preferences. By arranging for Jiang Huiyan to come over ahead of time this round, he would definitely secure the support of a powerful patron much earlier than in his previous life. Thinking of Jiang Huiyan, Li Qin couldn't help but let out a scornful laugh. This woman was just as devoted to him as she had been in his past life. But that's fine. I had originally intended to give her the cold shoulder for a few years, to make her suffer a bit and feel embarrassed. After that, I would still marry her. After all, in our previous life, she was completely sincere and devoted to me, and she took care of my mother and younger sister so well that they were very satisfied. She had also given birth to such an outstanding son, who was exactly like her in personality. In this life, she had saved Iru, and Iru had also given her a son. It was just a pity that he didn't look like her at all. Thinking of this, Li Qin missed his previous life even more. He didn't know whether he missed his son or the high status and adoration he once enjoyed. The feeling of making up for regrets in a second life is certainly good, but everything has to start from scratch. Now, I'm just a minor official with a bit of money, far from the status I had in my previous life, but it doesn't matter. Jiang Huiyan will be here soon. Once she helps me win over Director Jiao and I sell the house in Beixia, I'll have the capital to make a comeback. With the experience from my past life, I'm confident I can recreate that highlight in less than 10 years. As for what Mom and my younger sister said about Jiang Huiyan getting married, Li Qin didn't believe a word of it. This must be the Jiang family's attempt to save face after I ran away from the marriage, a story they made up to cover their embarrassment. I can't speak for other things. In his previous life, Jiang Huiyan was someone Li Qin was very confident about. She was the kind of woman who, once she set her heart on someone, would give her all and remain utterly devoted to them. That's also why, after being reborn, Li Qin would rather make his first love Tang Yiru his mistress and marry Jiang Huiyan again. As a wife, no one was more suitable for him than Jiang Huiyan. Tang Yiru sat opposite me with a beaming smile, beckoning me over. Miss Jiang, try this coffee. Their beans are all shipped from Brazil and ground by hand. The flavor is exceptionally rich. I was utterly exasperated, unable to fathom what this couple was trying to pull, just wanting to shop for some daily necessities. And yet I got intercepted by Tang Yiru. My luck was truly something else. Tang Yiru took a sip of coffee and looked at me hesitantly. Sister Jiang, I've been waiting for you here for many days. Last time you didn't come to our home, I thought you might have lost the business card and would come back here to wait. I didn't expect to actually run into you. Mine and Qin Ji's child is already 4 years old. If you have time, you can come visit our home. What happened before was our fault, but love itself isn't wrong. We also hope to receive your blessing. Oh, I see. Tang Yiru probably wanted to blur the concept of age, making me think that after having an abortion, she became pregnant with Li Qin's child again. She probably doesn't know. Yesterday, Li Qin just found me and demanded, with a sense of righteousness, that even if I marry into the Li family, I shouldn't make things difficult for Tang Yiru. Yiru, for the sake of my happiness, was even willing to have an abortion on her own when she got pregnant. I can't let down such a wonderful woman. So Jiang Huiyan, From now on you are the first wife, and she will be the second. The children she bears will also call you mother. This is very common in Hong Kong. Which outstanding man doesn't have 3 wives and 4 concubines? I hope you two can get along peacefully. I knew these two were crazy in my past life, but I never expected them to be this insane, especially when Tang Iru's son, who was sitting nearby eating cake, suddenly gasped for breath and collapsed on the floor. My duty as a doctor made me rush to provide first aid without a second thought. The child clearly had laryngeal mucosal edema caused by an allergy and needed to go to the hospital immediately. As I was frantically administering first aid, I saw Tang Iru, who had been sitting calmly just moments before, now weeping like a pear blossom in the rain, fragile and panicked, throwing herself into the arms of the man who had rushed in. "Chin, save our son." I just wanted to introduce him to Sister Jiang in advance, but who knew she deliberately gave him mango to eat. I clearly reminded her over and over that Keek is allergic to mangoes. Li Qin glared at me with eyes wide in fury, as if he wished to tear me to pieces. Without a word, he rushed over and raised his hand to slap me. Under his incredulous gaze, I pressed firmly on the acupoint at his wrist. Ah! The pain drained Li Qin's face of color, sweat beading on his forehead. Just kidding. Do you have any idea how tough we medical students have it? During lectures, the professors practically expect us to be able to lift an ox. Jiang Huayan, harming a child, you're so despicable. I never realized before what a vicious woman you are. It seems I need to give you the cold shoulder for a while. Otherwise, Li Qin was still blabbering on. I couldn't take it anymore and yelled, "Shut up, get him to the hospital now," during the doctor's emergency treatment, before I could leave. Tang Iru, sobbing, grabbed my sleeve and demanded an explanation. Before long, Li Qin's mother and sister rushed in again. "Oh, my dear grandson, Grandma's heart is breaking with pain." Li Maina glared at me with anger and resentment. Li Qin held the softly sobbing Tang Iru, comforting her in a gentle voice. Tang Iru looked at me in panic, then hid in Li Qin's arms. Li Qin's face turned cold as he demanded, "Jiang Huayan, apologize." I couldn't be bothered with this crazy couple and got up to leave, but Li Qin grabbed my arm. Amid the tussle, a puzzled voice came from behind. "Director Jiang, what are you doing here? The department is waiting for you for a meeting." I turned around and saw a few interns, including Xiao Yang, who had just entered, passing by. I quickly called them over to separate the mentally unstable members of the Li family and took the opportunity to slip away. From behind, Li Qin's confused retort could be heard. "What do you call Jiang Huayan, Director Jiang?" Several enthusiastic interns confirmed. "Right, Director Jiang just transferred to our hospital. He's a top graduate from Beijing Medical University and Professor Cheng's most prized final disciple." At the end of the workday in the evening, I had just left the hospital when I ran into Li Qin, who was waiting at the entrance. "Jiang Huayan, you've been reborn too." It's no wonder Li Qin was so certain. In my previous life, while hiking with Sister Gao, I accidentally cut my ankle on a sharp rock. The young female doctor's swift and deft movements as she cleaned and sutured my wound utterly fascinated me. For months after returning home, I kept trying to imitate her. It turned out that beyond just sewing, a tiny needle could have such a mesmerizing stage. Li Qin was utterly dismissive of my obsession, scoffing, "If you could ever become a doctor, pigs would fly." I looked at Li Qin with disdain. "I've become a doctor, but I wonder if the pigs at Mr. Li's house can climb trees now." Li Qin's face flushed slightly, and he immediately started to accuse. "Jiang Huayan, you clearly were reborn long ago. Why didn't you come to find me? You knew I was about to meet Sister Gao, and you also knew that Sister Gao only likes the clothes you make. Are you deliberately trying to see me struggle, wanting me to beg you? Let me tell you, I'm doing all this for our future. Don't you want to live the life of a noble lady like in our past life sooner? Quit your job at the hospital right away. Go back and start making clothes while taking care of my mother. After working as a doctor for so many years, you should be more experienced in elderly care. That'll work out well." I'm utterly fed up with Li Qin's self-righteous attitude. In our past life, I only knew him as someone who would kick others when they were down and burn bridges. But I never realized he had such a nauseatingly inflated sense of self-importance. As the workday ended, familiar colleagues appeared in twos and threes. They were quite curious about Li Qin and me standing at the door. Li Qin, looking smug and confident, came over to take my hand. I cooled my expression and slapped his paw away. Take one more step and I'll call security. This is a military hospital. The guards could take down 3 of you with one hand. Also, don't be so full of yourself. I'm already married. Li Qin froze. How is that possible? He chuckled dismissively. There's no way you married anyone but me. Me, how could I? She married me. She is my legitimate, lifelong partner recognized by the national marriage law. You question it. Who do you think you are? I turned around in pleasant surprise. Sighting strode forward, grabbed my hand, and intertwined our fingers, not caring about the outsider present. I just said happily, weren't you supposed to return tomorrow? The man lowered his head, his voice hoarse. I missed you, so I rushed back overnight. That day, Li Qin chased after them.